top of the table as it stands right now, 3 points between them, but Croatia with a game in hand. Luka Modric did start for Croatia. Here's what he's had to say on not playing all the time at Real Madrid. He said, it's certainly a new situation for me not to play as much as before and as much as I'd like. You know, I always want to play. I don't want to have breaks. I don't have vacations. I just want to play. I love it. I don't want to be out. I just want to play, if necessary, every 3 days because I feel physically well. This is an interesting situation now, obviously, because there could be a decision to make. He does know that he wants to play as much as he can.
He's not said he wants to play.
Luka Modric, yeah, he said it about 15 times in one paragraph there. And Luis, obviously, one thing that we've seen this season, though, is that he has had to share his minutes around. We're not seeing him start the same games as Toni Kroos right now. In fact, that's an interesting question. Who's the better of the two right now? Toni Kroos or Luka Modric, if you had to bank on one of them, and only one of them for Real Madrid?
It's a tough call, but the way that the Real Madrid has been playing and what we've seen so far for Real Madrid, I think Kroos have improved so much at the centre of the midfield. When he's in or out of the pitch, Real Madrid feels it. It's not the same having Kroos into the field when it's Camavinga, Valverde or Tchouaméni or any kind of player that they are there. That the way that the build-up of Real Madrid and arriving to the last third in creation when he's Kroos there is a totally different Real Madrid. And Modric is always a player who can bring something special, but we've seen so far that it's very difficult for him to keep up the pace of the games, or if he has to play 2 games, I think so far he hasn't played two games in a row. I think only one from the start, and he was replaced after 60, 70 minutes, because it's true that quality is still there. You can see that he can be players on 1v1 situations, but only at the last there. When transitions are happening, that's why they are behind Valverde or Tchouaméni or Camavinga to try to cover spaces. So I think so far Kroos have gave Real Madrid a lot more for the games that they've been played.
Here's the deal. Real Madrid have had a pretty bad couple of months with injuries, particularly at the back. They lost the best keeper in Europe. They lost one of the best centre-halves in Europe at the start of the season, Militao. They've struggled in the left-back position with Fran Garcia, who's been replaced. They've had injuries in the right-back position. So Ancelotti, being the experienced coach that he is, realises, and he didn't see this in the Atletico Madrid game when both Kroos and Modric started, but as Luis said, he had to make changes because it wasn't a particularly good performance. But he's having to put teams out that are at least, from a midfield perspective, given this back line that's been decimated with injuries, some protection. Allied to that, there's the man of the moment. Do I even need to mention his name?
Go on.
Jude Bellingham has come in
that guy.
in the forward area and has taken a huge pressure off a front line that has lost Karim Benzema. So when you throw Luka Modric in there as a guy who has got all the skill in the world, who can see a pass and play a pass, but is beyond his mid-30s, and I think Ancelotti in some sense is trying to do the guy a favour. You know, you do, as you get older, need to take more time. And I think as a player, sometimes you don't recognise that because, as he said, I want to play. But a manager can see that. To try and elongate your career for club and country, you need more rest. And I think it's just an unfortunate scenario of age and of squad and of injuries that if Jude Bellingham had come in and struggled, Luka Modric would have played more on the field. But he hasn't. He has not. And so there are other areas of the team that Ancelotti has to worry about, and that is the position behind Jude Bellingham and in front of that back four.
Let's talk about Luka Modric then, with what's left for his career, because he's 38 years old now.
38? I thought he was 36.
38.
So 38 years old, just gone 38 in September.
Wow.
He's obviously still wanting to play, in case you didn't get that from his quote there.
Yeah, I got that every 3 days.
He could have a decision to make here, because do you stay with a team that are competing, an elite team like Real Madrid, where you can still get your minutes and you can still be competing on all fronts? Or do you drop down to a team that's a bit of a lower level than Real Madrid, where you can get more minutes?
Well, I think
You know why I ask you this? Because obviously you won a lot of titles with Liverpool and you had a decision to make yourself.
Well, I was 37. I was playing in the Premier League and I was in the last year of my deal, and I couldn't give 90 minutes. I could play for an hour in the Premier League when I was 37. The last half hour, I couldn't do it. I didn't have the legs. And I told the manager that. I said, look, And so, Luka Modric, I went down the league after that because I knew I could still contribute, but I knew I couldn't do it properly at the highest level. And so I didn't feel as though I was able to contribute. So there wasn't any point in me being there. I was just wasting my time, particularly as I only had a limited amount of time left when you're 37, and I wanted to play. I think Modric is a little different than my situation because although he can't play every game, he can still step on the field and give a 90-minute performance. And if it's half the games, which it looks like, four starts and 9 appearances is pretty much half, how good is it to be a coach when you can turn to a guy like Modric and know that you can call upon him if you want to give guys a rest, but you're going to get a certain level of performance that means you're going to still win games and you're still Real Madrid.
Yeah, because it was interesting, because you said to me that you knew you couldn't make a difference to that team anymore, but you think he still can.
I think he absolutely still can, yeah. Only if he plays every other game. He can't play every 3 days. I mean, I think he just wants to be positive and says that. But I think if you're Ancelotti, it's a great position to be in. You can call on a guy the weekend before your big Champions League game, for example, knowing that you have to win the game to stay at the top of the league. You know you can put Modric in and he'll give you a 90-minute performance. Whilst I'm Modric and I can still do that, I'm staying at Real Madrid. The second I figure it out, or the second that the manager stops playing me, then I get away as quick as I can because you've only got a certain amount of time left, particularly when you're 30.
I honestly think he's better off staying where he is. He's getting enough time. I mean, if he was getting no time, zero, different story. But I think Luka Modric, having played at the level he has played at, both himself and his teammates, would, depending on how far down he dropped, I think would quickly get frustrated with what's around about him. Because you do.
Because he must be a massive help to those young midfielders as well.
Yeah, I mean, these guys have all got standards. And I think when you start to... there is no doubt at the end of your career, when you start to drop down, if that's what you do, you notice a big difference in standards. Not just on a weekend, but in training. And for a lot of people, that's hard to sort of stomach if you've played at the top most of your career. And so, for me, I still think he's got a big part to play at Real Madrid, and I'm sure that's what Ancelotti is telling him. He's obviously just frustrated that, come a Saturday or Sunday, he's not in the first 11 like he was for the past, decade? Yeah.